Hello guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the garage. So we're finally back to the race truck. So we had a little hiatus with working on Caitlin, working on her, getting her all straightened out in the front end, new wheel bearings, ball joints, Carly track bar, Carly steering stabilizer, all that kind of good stuff. But more importantly, the reason we got off of the race truck project, we got our new roof on the race truck. Thanks to the guys at Peach Bottom Auto Body. It looks awesome. I'm loving it. But in the meantime, I also did get the frame all cleaned up. I ground down, or at least sanded down and wire wheeled all the areas where we were grinding. So that way when we put the cab on there, places that would be hard to get to, like the top of the frame, are already painted. Because the plan is this cab is going to get married to this frame kind of semi-permanently. I don't want to say permanently because you never know, and the way we do stuff around here, eventually it would probably come out next year somehow, or come off next year somehow. But anyway, we're going to be attaching the body to the cab to the frame and then building our cage. So that's our big task right now. I'm going to try and keep the distractions down and just focus on the cage. Really getting the cage done is kind of the big thing. There's a lot of other stuff that I want to do to the race truck. The engine should be about done. I don't know what's going on with that. There's some logistical issues that we're having, but we're not ready for it, so I haven't been pushing anything. That, and we will probably be out there in the beginning of May, so we might fall in line with picking it up while we're out there for some other activities. Anyhow, but that's neither here nor there. All the other stuff other than the cage can be done after the cage. So I have some stuff I want to do, the axles, to some other stuff. There's other things we're going to need. We're going to need all new wiring, battery relocation, all kinds of stuff we got to do. But it can all be done after the cage is in, and this cage is rather complex that we are shooting to do. But we are a step ahead also with having our notches and our holes in the front for our outriggers. So I'll quit yapping. We'll get this thing pushed back in the garage, get our scaffold built, get our cab inside the scaffold, and get that thing onto the frame. So yep, it's race truck time once again, boys and girls. Well, the drag truck is back in the garage. The cab is on the frame. It is centered up. The 2 bolts in the front, I use them as guides, get me close, and then shuffled the back end around here. Really, for a lot of the cage stuff we are doing right this second, it's not going to really matter where it's sitting on the frame, but I still got it centered up. I got a jack under it, got the frame leveled up in the rear, and then in the front here, I got it down to ride height. So if you notice, this time we did not put the engine in. So what I did was I took a chain and wrapped around this frame rail, wrapped around that frame rail, and then put it underneath of our jack. So when we would jack up the axle, we'd actually be holding the frame itself in place and getting us to ride height, and then I stuck the pieces of cut bump stock that I had. Wait, not bump stock, they're illegal. This bump stop. So I had those two pieces that I put in there to get us close, and then I put the straps on. It did lift a little bit further back up, but it is certainly sitting a lot lower than it even was with the engine in it, but it is at ride height. So if you think this is pretty trick with the jack and the chains, well, unfortunately it wasn't my idea, but no, that was a suggestion from my father. Hey, why don't you just do this? Great idea. It worked. It definitely made things a lot easier than trying to put the engine in here and all that. So if we need to move the truck around, we can without much hassle. Now we are going to try and do this lower cage support bar. Basically it's going to go right below this bend all the way across, and that's going to be the midway point between where the cage is going to attach to the cross member we're going to make and to the top of the main hoop. It's going to be right in the center. That bar, I went over the SFI stuff, just double, triple checking everything, trying not to waste any tube. It says if you run a 4-link setup, and then it's got a bunch of stipulations, you know, you can run 1.5 inch tube, which is what I thought originally it was going to be, but it says if you're running a ladder bar setup, which I guess is what we're probably going to be running, because we're going to have the leaf still. So our ladder bars probably will end up back on the truck unless we make a much lighter set, which we should. But anyhow, we're going to make that out of the thicker, the bigger 1 5/8 inch tube, just to be safe. Don't want to go through all this work and just have to cut bars out. So we're going to do that with 1 5/8 inch tube. And also, I did a little upgrading. So also compliments of my father. I have a drill press that we are borrowing to make our notches a lot better. This is just a Craftsman 1 horsepower drill press we'll be using. So that way the 1/2 inch drill motor doesn't try and rip my arm off. Now another thing, I did even upgrade our Harbor Freight notcher to a new bushing. So it came with these 2 bushings, which had, I think it was like, what was it? I think it was almost 10,000 slop on the bushing to the shaft. It was enough that you could rock that thing back and forth within this. So what I did was I actually machined a new bushing that is much tighter. This thing is actually probably a little too tight, because I went with the same outer diameter as this, and it had like 1/1000th or 2 crush. So when I put it in there, it actually crushed down a little bit and grabs the shaft a little tighter. So that will wear in. It's not a problem. If anything, it's a good thing. It's nice and tight, but that brass will wear eventually. And also, I drilled out this rear bracket and put 3/8 studs in there. I had actually stripped one of the bolt holes. So we put 3/8 studs, and they actually fit in that slot once you get the paint off it, nice and tight. So that's another place we're tight there. So hopefully this will make our notching much easier. So we're back to the cage work. I've been double, triple checking my measurements, trying to make sure we don't waste any tube, checking the regulations on the bar, all that kind of stuff. So this is where it's going to slow down. You know, getting this thing in here and all that, that's the easy and fun part. Now comes the tedious part of making sure all our dimensions are right, making sure our cuts are right, trying to get everything right on the first cut. What do they say? Measure 3 or 4 times, cut once. That's what we're going to try and do. So let's get this thing cut, and maybe we can get it in there leveled up and tacked in tonight. And that's another thing. I did double check the cage. It is all leveled up. Everything is fine. It did not move at all from the time at the body shop, thanks to our hose clamps. So everything's good there. The nice straight bar across the back to get our feet wet again. And yeah, let's get to building the cage. Well, our lower horizontal cage support, I think that's what it's called, bar is in. Everything's level, everything's true. Our fitments were great. The only complaint with the new little setup for the notcher is I think I need to get some belts for the drill press. They were slipping a little, would catch every once in a while, but that or I need to figure out how to get them tighter, but they're about as tight as I can get them. But yeah, so we got both welds done. I went a little further than I anticipated. Originally, I was just going to get them tacked in, but they're in. Next step will be to start building out our funny car cage. Basically, what I'm trying to do is get everything in that's going to be up top here so we can get all our top welds finished welded. We can drop the cage back down. This bar is going to limit that a little bit. We'll only be able to drop it a foot or so, but our main hoop's going to have to come from here around over. It's going to have to go down to that bar. So that bar needed to be in, but once we do, you know, so we got that in, and now then we can do our I was just saying it. Wow, it's late. Our funny car cage. We can do our funny car cage. We can do our roof. There's like an X that needs to go in here on the roof. And that should be about it for all the stuff we do there. And then we can start tying this thing actually into the truck. I mean, we got down bars we got to do either way here. We got a big X that needs to go in the back. Bunch of stuff. There's a window bar that comes down here, but we have a lot of bars, but we needed to do this one next. I'm kind of rambling, guys. It is late. Like I said, I just ended up finished welding them. Yeah, so we're moving right along. The new notcher setup's working great for these straight tubes with my little angle finder. The real hang-up's going to be when we get to the angle cuts. We haven't done any notching. I haven't done any notching on an angle yet, so I'll have to figure that out, but we will work through it. So if we can keep even getting a bar in every night or 2 bars, we're making progress. We're doing good. We're getting there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll check you guys on the next one. Get out in your garage. Get to building your roll cage.